Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of Master Phil in your corner with your host, Master Phil.
All right. Greetings, everyone. This is Master Phil with Master Phil in your corner with my trusty sidekick, Dougie Fresh Friedman, here in the Undefeated Media Studios in warming up Wyckoff.
Yeah, a little sunny day.
Wyckoff. Sunny day here in Wyckoff, New Jersey. Snow's starting to melt away, getting rid of the last remnants of winter, hopefully.
Yes.
We have a really good show today. It's a very important subject that, has been hanging around for a few years and is just reaching a larger and larger crescendo, shall we say. So, we're gonna get into it. But before we get into our subject today, we have to thank our sponsors.
Absolutely.
Namely, me. So, philross.com. It's the one-on-one and virtual training through the Kettlebell library, over 100 kettlebell and bodyweight-based workouts. We have Survival Strong there as well. Defensive tactics, strategies, combinations, and responsive techniques. And there's a bunch of workouts involved in that as well. And of course, the American Eagle Live. There are over 200 training videos with kettlebells, bodyweight, martial arts, defensive tactics, knife and stick work. There's a technique, education. It's only $9.99 per month.
Wow.
Matter of fact, we've gone international. It just had a couple people overseas join up. Yeah, pretty cool. Got a couple from Australia, South Korea, everything. It's really cool. And then the secrets of kettlebell training. I mean, people, you got to jump on this because it's only $69 to get over 100 kettlebell movements performed in the hard style training method of Russian kettlebell training. So, this will teach you how to be able to perform these movements properly.
Nice.
We also have the Bodybuild Method, the world's only kettlebell bodyweight and dynamic tension certification based on the minimalist approach to strength, health, and fitness. The system is recognized by both ACE and NASM for continuing education credits. And there are also the Bodybuild Method is listed on their respective sites, levels 1 and 2. And we do have a certification coming up on March 27th in Rye, New York. Trinity Fitness. Get involved now. And then, of course, we have the Master Phil in Your Corner podcast. If you happen to miss the live broadcast, you don't want to watch it on YouTube, you want to listen to it elsewhere, feel free to go onto the Master Phil.
Anti-YouTube.
Anti-YouTube. You're not, you got thrown off YouTube maybe. I don't know. Who knows? There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But, go to the Master Phil in Your Corner podcast. We also have more products for training. You can go to our website, thephilross.com, and check out the Dragon Door products. Kettlebells, neuro grips, books, videos, everything you want. And you need to join me on Fit Team. Gosh, you know what? I forgot to take my water out.
Oh, yeah?
Because I have my special Fit Team water with me. This one has hydrate and energy in it.
Nice. I want that. We still got to get me my package.
Get on board, brother. Get on board.
Where do I sign?
On philross.com.
All right.
There you go. Go there and sign up. Join with me. I'll tell you what. How many times have I gotten thirsty and parched here on the show?
Very true. We ran out of water bottles. You drank them all.
Exactly. I'm like a camel. Drink it all down. So join us on Fit Team. We have all kinds of nutritional products. Burnalong.com. If you don't want to go into any of these other video training and you want to just see me with 2,000 other instructors, it's $14.95 a month. Mm-hmm. And
nice. It's a lot of stuff.
Got a lot of stuff.
Master Phil's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like can't hide. Phil will find you.
Yes. So now there's a subject that we really need to address. Something that I teach in my classes, and it has to do with marijuana. Mm-hmm. Cannabis, pot, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. People think it's this innocuous little herb that does not, harm anyone. But we're gonna delve into this a little bit.
Good subject.
Yeah. And we have an expert here with us. This man met him a few years back, and quite an interesting background. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in behavioral and public health, and he worked in New York City for the for the government there. So I mean, the guy's got a great insight on what's going on, and it's sometimes it gets a little scary when you see what's going on, and you see the things that occur and this and how the studies are skewed, and hey, we have to pay attention to stuff, and we're going to bring some. We're going to go and we got some people chiming in there. So without any further ado, we're going to bring in Duke Golz. Come on, Duke.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Master Phil, thank you kindly for having me on today.
Louis, thank you for being one of our esteemed guests. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background in science and health and so forth?
Well, like a lot of us, my background is mixed. I was in construction for a long time, so I had a lot of firsthand exposure to substance abuse and things like that, prevalent in that type of community. But later on, I went back to school. I have a passion for helping out people, and I began a life in public health. I worked for the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in the Center for Health Equity. I worked with the blood pressure monitoring program. And basically, we focused on, social determinants of health as well as chronic disease prevention. From there, I went forward and got a master's degree in healthcare administration. I became a practice manager for a large behavioral health office down in Morristown. Did that for a while. Now I work in digital therapeutics, where I can help people, by reaching them in an electronic format where we deliver their care plans directly to their phone and help keep them healthy on a day-to-day basis, and nice little snackable bites of information, So it's very rewarding.
Wow. Actually, it looks like you've spent a whole lot of time in your life helping other people and being involved in things that make other people's lives better. And, you've seen a lot. And, one of the things that I want to bring up, personally, on a personal level, I don't care if people smoke pot, do whatever they want to do. It doesn't really bother me. That's their own personal choice. Of course, I choose not to, and I choose not to for a plethora of reasons. But the thing that worries me most is the way that pot is being positioned as this innocuous drug that doesn't harm anyone. Now, I must digress and say, if you are in extreme pain, I'd rather someone use cannabis than use opioids. But that doesn't mean that it's good. It just means it's not as bad. It doesn't suck as bad as opioids do for you. But, again, I think we're being sold a bad bill of goods on this. And, this has come to the forefront, especially in our town, because they want to put in a pot store 500 feet from a school. I think that we're winning, and it's not going to happen. But still, we still need to discuss these situations. So can you talk to some of the dangers of pot? Marijuana?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's not quite as harmless as a lot of people think, because, you're still breathing in, a lot of, sticky residues and things like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody has ever.
Could you hold that thought? That video clip.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep talking, because we're going to talk about, because what I found this a couple of years ago, because I teach in my health sciences class about the dangers of marijuana and what it does to your lungs. And I found this video. It was conducted by a Canadian doctor. And I put the actual from 322.
Effective today.
Yeah. So check this out. Let's bring this in. So, Duke, so let's start talking about that residue, and then we'll see it here.
I mean, the same stuff you see at the end of that cigarette or at the end of that joint goes right into your lungs.
Yeah. So what they did was they did it starts at 322. Yeah. So this is the them showing after 90 joints what happens to your lungs with the cotton. And then here's people who are just listening. They see a nice clean thing of cotton balls, and then after a tube filled with nicotine or residue ridden cotton balls. and then shows how disgusting and like what happens to your lungs. And then they're breaking apart the cotton balls, and you see how much gunk is in the cotton balls and how much residue there is. And then they wipe it out, and then they show the tube with all the residue in. I think that's good. You get the idea.
Nice.
Good. So Duke, what do you think of that?
That's exactly, the point that I was getting at, and a lot of times people aren't like going to be filtering their marijuana cigarettes or things like that, and like you were saying about, the muddled type of information, one of the lines that you'll hear, like when people try and promote, like cannabis or marijuana, they'll be like, oh, cigarettes has like 150, carcinogenic chemicals in it. Pot only has like 5 or 14 or whatever, much smaller number. But still, you're putting all of that residue into your lungs, and you're most likely, not putting any kind of filter in between it. And, that's still gunking up your sinuses. I mean, and just on that subject alone, I mean, you're putting a lot of extra things in your body that are going to slow you down. Number one, they're going to take away from your overall health. And yes, some of them are going to be carcinogenic. Plus, unless if you're getting like non-GMO, organically grown marijuana, you don't really know what's in that stuff anyway. You know what I mean? There could be all sorts of, chemicals and pesticides in there that who knows what they were, or fertilizers or things like that. So, I mean, on that level alone, go ahead.
Just on that level, not even delving into the fact that THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, resides in your cerebral cortex for 23 days. Now, I mean, there have been a ton of studies done on what it does, makes like structural and functional changes to the hippocampus. Do you know anything about those studies or that effect and how it,
Well, I mean, for one, there's like THC, it's a really long name, but there's more 3-letter type of acronyms for, a whole bunch of other things that are in cannabis as well. And it's a fat soluble type of chemical, meaning that, fat will break it down. Or so when we do ingest cannabis like THC, or even like, like other things like CBD, those type of things will stay inside our fat cells, our lipid cells, like you just said, for a prolonged period of time. The heavier we are, the more fat that we are, the more we can store that. And so like right now I'm at a pretty good weight, but let's just say I was like 100 pounds overweight, and I was smoking the same amount as if I'm, a healthy person. I'll be storing that THC for even longer periods of time and even more adipose type of cellular tissues too.
Yeah.
And it takes longer to get it out.
Yeah, and plus, when you smoke pot, you get the munchies, so you get even fatter. So putting more weight on. Now, the other thing is that you brought something up, that it's fat soluble, right? Now, people say, oh, it's the same as drinking. No, it's not. Alcohol is water soluble. You pee it out the next day, except, of course, in extreme cases. But these narcotics are fat soluble. They're stored. They stay in your system. Well, it's huge. Yeah.
That's one component of it. I mean, like the different types of chemicals out there, have different processes, like the alcohol and other types, they may be, through our liver where they're, metabolized and, converted into different chemicals that are used throughout our body to give us those effects that, people are trying to get. But in this line, between legalization and like decriminalization, I take a fine stance there. I've worked in like prisoner reentry, criminal justice type of reform, and recreational legalization is not the same as decriminalization. And I just wanted to make that point. And I do support decriminalization because like you're talking about narcotics you mentioned, and cannabis, marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic, meaning that, it's in the same classification as heroin or LSD. And I think most of us, could probably agree that cannabis is really not in the same category as something like heroin or LSD.
Right.
If you've ever seen anybody smoke a joint or then shoot up or take LSD, you would see a very, very different, reactions amongst those people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of different things, So when it comes to decriminalization, I do support, making it maybe like a Schedule II narcotic, like something like cocaine or maybe less, and also the penalties, associated with it. If somebody gets caught with a joint, it shouldn't destroy their whole lives.
Right.
Whether it be employment, whether it be trying to get student financial aid for undergraduate, or whether it being admissions to graduate school, because, those are all things that can be, really affected by it. So, changing the different types, but getting back to the, the health aspect too. One thing, health, related that it has been linked to, THC does help lower the testosterone in us guys. You know what I mean? And it seems like there is an overall issue within a lot of our Western countries about, lowering of testosterone through the different types of processed foods that we're eating, the different over-the-counter pharmaceuticals that we take that we can just buy in the drugstores, so the lack of activity, especially after this pandemic, our T levels are going down a lot. And I mean, that kind of affects a lot. Now, we don't want too much. We don't want to be, taking, like anabolic steroids and things, but we want to be at a healthy level. And one thing that cannabis will do, it will definitely lower your testosterone levels enough where, you may not be inclined, to have the recovery that you might have if you were working out normally. What are your thoughts on that, Master Phil?
Well, yeah, actually, the one we actually did an episode on Where Have All the Men Gone, right? And
yes, sir.
And the dropping testosterone and sperm rate. Now, the other thing that so I couldn't agree with you more on that. But also, it not only affects males, it affects females. Marijuana, THC, affects the chromosomes. There are a ton of studies done on this where they do have an adverse effect on the chromosomes and do destroy them. I mean, there are many studies that have shown of what it does to intrauteral fetuses when they're in there, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. You put a foreign substance in your body, and the thing that I'm being the big issue that I have here is, again, how we started off. It's being put forth as an innocuous, natural herb, drug, whatever you want to call it, and it's not innocuous. Look, anytime you put something in your system, you stand a chance of something bad happening. There's a ton of studies that have shown what it does with the hippocampus and the how your memory, you have memory loss from it. And there's many other side effects too. Of course, it's called a gateway drug, because many of the people who, you don't just wake up one day and start, doing smack. All right. You start with one thing and then gradually move towards other ones. I mean, that's common knowledge, for people to try to dispute that, it's just, they really just don't have a leg to stand on, and I just don't know where they're getting the information from. Do you have any thing to say about that? Or?
Well, to be honest with you, Master Phil, I would consider alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis all gateway drugs. Generally, most people I know don't go out and try, a marijuana cigarette or smoke a bong right away. They usually are exposed to either smoking some kind of like tobacco product, maybe like a vape product, or, they try alcohol first because those are like the most legal ones. And, this brings up the legalization aspect. If we do make this like recreationally legalized, it's just going to be an additional gateway drug for people to go ahead and try some more, heavier types of things. And, eventually with tolerance, say someone is prone to liking a certain substance, like, like cigarettes. And I was addicted, I'm still addicted to nicotine. I will be my whole life, but, I smoked for a long time, and, like, I'm prone to that. So, one, at first it's like, okay, yeah, it's all right. But that one, after a little while, isn't enough. Before I know it, I'm smoking a whole pack of cigarettes. Then once you get to that whole pack of cigarettes, it still doesn't work. So then you're looking for something more. And, that's how it incrementally builds in, between the psyche as well as, the physical tolerances that we're building up, so I would lump all three of those as a gateway drug together. But out of them, usually people are going to be trying the traditionally legal ones first, like alcohol or tobacco, and then they bump over to something like cannabis. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Yeah, they're getting a buzz on, and somebody says, "Hey, try this joint." And you're like, "Got a buzz?" "Oh, sure." And then one thing leads to the next. And you see, these are the dangers that we face. And there's the people that are are proponents of this. I don't think they're really considering, the adverse effects. I mean, the other thing is that marijuana leads to psychosis as well. It's been known for a long time to lead to psychosis. So the research, I have some things I've pulled up that research have co-occurring mental health disorders with substance abuse disorder at a higher risk for developing psychosis associated with the substance or medication. This may suggest that substances such as marijuana may trigger the onset of a psychotic episode in people who have predisposition risk for psychosis. Now, look, do we know who? We have no idea who is at a risk for developing psychosis. Just like, some people can smoke pot and be fine. Some people can drink alcohol and be fine. Others, it has an adverse effect. And you know what? We don't come with manuals with a warning labels on us when we're born. Oh, do not put in alcohol. Do not use marijuana. You don't know. You don't know until you start doing it. And then sometimes it's too late. Like, so that's when you brought up the decriminalization of marijuana, which I'm for that, because you know what? If someone's sitting there and they have pot on them and they're using it, they're not dealing it, maybe they have a problem. Okay. And to throw someone in jail because they have a substance abuse problem, I don't think that's the right way to deal with it. And now if they commit a crime because, well, that's a whole nother story. But if they're just caught smoking pot, again, the decriminalization is one thing. They need to be helped. They shouldn't be punished for that, in my eyes. Yeah. So,
wouldn't it cost around similar price to have someone in jail rather than have someone in rehab?
Look,
because it costs money to have someone in jail.
Oh, absolutely.
They get fed. They have a roof over their head.
Yep.
So, is it a similar price tag?
Yeah, I mean, I know, I don't know that. I don't have those
It's just
statistics.
something to
and I
ponder
can't-
because you're
but
not
it's something
helping
to think
someone.
about. Yeah. And
They're
then the
both
whole-
lucrative industries. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. People are making money there. They wouldn't be there.
But the focus should be on, trying to help people with their issues. Now, let's go back to that for a minute. Phil, it's like, I'd be almost like back in Prohibition times, like if someone's having a beer on their front step and they're not driving anywhere, they're not doing anything, that person, and going back to the psychosis aspect,
Right. I want you to,
with
because I know
drinking,
you were in behavioral health. Yeah. You were in behavioral health. So I want to know, did you see a lot of this?
It was blanket substance abuse, and there is a little bit of that varied information, that muddled type of information that you get,
Right.
Unfortunately out there, opioids are a very big epidemic right now. Things like crystal meth are really bad, more, west of the Mississippi. And unfortunately, a lot of times with these, recrealization type of initiatives, doctors will say, it's like, oh, if you're smoking pot, well, hey, it's better than doing crack, or it's better than doing dope. You know what I mean? And which it is, so you'll see that, but we also have to try and warn of the dangers, because you're really, you're kind of just switching out one substance for another. And that'll definitely, help you, on your road to relapse to your true drug of choice. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If my real drug is heroin and I go smoking joints for a while, eventually I'm going to, be going back towards that.
You always, people don't understand that about addiction. You're always going to gravitate toward your drug of choice. So if someone's like a cocaine addict and they go and have a beer, oh, I'm not addicted to beer. I'm not addicted. I'm not an alcoholic. But guess what? As soon as the juices start flowing, the chemicals in the brain start being affected by the alcohol, what are you going to seek out? You're going to seek out your cocaine. That's what happens. See, this is another thing that I think people have a misconception about as well. And, if we talk about the opioid situation, that's a whole nother subject that, our actually the FDA and our government and the pharmaceutical companies were all behind that, putting forth false information about the addictive properties of opioids. And it was fed to the people in the medical schools, all the medical students. And they said, hey, the thing is, keep your patients out of pain, and they just kept jacking up the dosages. And now what do we have? We have a big problem. And you know what? Again, like you said before, not too many people go out and do heroin right off the bat. They'll start with alcohol. They'll start with marijuana. And like, do we need another legalized substance here? Do we?
Yeah. I mean, and to your point there, you know, it's like, look at in New York City now, they're putting up legal shooting galleries, and they do it in, you know, some of the neighborhoods that need the most help too. You know, and I worked in some of these areas like Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, East Harlem, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, they already got enough problems, let alone setting up a place for people to go in and, you know, use intravenous, you know, heavy Schedule I narcotics, you know what I mean? Wow. Things like that. And, you know, it's this slow erosion of our true natural health that, you know, we should really be focusing upon.
Yeah, you know, and you bring up another point because you mentioned a couple of different areas. Another thing is that those are all high crime areas as well. And there's a ton of information regarding the increase in crime in areas with legalized marijuana. And there's several reasons for that. One, because you're attracting an element. Two, it increases the amount of black market marijuana. And three, these are all cash businesses. They can't take credit cards. So what do you think? The nefarious elements out there don't know this. So where are they going to target? They're going to target some place that has credit cards, or are they going to target a place that is laden with cash? I mean, it just makes sense. You know, putting these places up, you know, you're just opening yourself up to crime, and especially the spot that they wanted to put it in where we are. It's right on the border of New York, and you have 17 there. You have the Thruway there. You have 287 there. I mean, there's a lot of traffic going in and out of there. And if you look at it, like 17 is, if not one of the top drug traffic highways in the country, definitely on the East Coast.
Yeah, well, this proposed location is actually, I mean, it's literally right around the corner from my house. You know, I don't live too far away from it. It's, you know, maybe a couple 100 yards away from where my church is. The Police Chief Jaffe and the Mahwah Police Department put out, you know, a report just on the traffic issues that it would cause over there by West Rampo Road. It's already flooded right now. I mean, that would create a huge issue, but there are multiple schools in the area. And the one thing that I like to bring up with this one, you know, we're a state line area right here. The border of New York State is right here. We already have right on 17 in the same type of area, several types of hotels and motels. And there's a lot of things that go on there. You know, I know police officers, and, you know, if people in Mahwah knew the type of things that were coming through their town, they would probably, you know, they'd probably skip a couple beats in their heart, you know.
Right.
Our law enforcement does a wonderful job here of keeping us safe. You know, I back the blue 100%. And, you know, most people don't even know, you know, some of the heavy stuff I'm talking about, you know, not only like weapons, you know, like large amounts of drugs, human trafficking, prostitution, all right here, right next to us. And, you know, if that's already taking place in some of those locations, what do you think is going to be happening, you know, just up the road at a marijuana dispensary, you know? And we're going to be, people are going to be coming in from New York, you know, from all over, and who knows who these people are going to be. And like you said, because it still is illegal at a federal level, nothing can be done with banks or credit cards for this. It's all cash business, you know?
And they got all these people in those no-tell motels. This is just another way for them to engage in criminal activity. I mean, like you said before, I mean, there's all kinds of trafficking, sex trafficking, prostitution, arms deals, other narcotics deals, all going on right under everyone's nose, except, like you said, our cops are on top of it. But you know what? When they bust one, they're in and out anyway, and they're back there doing the same thing again. But, you know, most of the people are insulated, like most of the town folk are insulated from this, but we have people from all over. Just drive by and see the different tags, license plates from different states.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in, you know, prisoner reentry and, you know, the aspects of criminal justice reform. And so, you know, I'm going to play this out for a minute. You know, in theory, say, I'm someone who wants to do things in, a non-honest way. I could set up shop in one of those hotel rooms. Okay. I could kind of live there. All right. Walk over, to the dispensary each day,
Right.
pick up an ounce of cannabis, come back, and it's cash. Nobody knows that Duke was buying it. Go back to my hotel room, sit there, distribute it, make it into smaller bags and then sell it at a higher price. Capitalism's terrible, right?
So the junior to the middle school and high school kids,
or to
Easily.
kids that are in walking distance of that area.
Right.
Make enough money to go back and buy another ounce tomorrow, pay for my hotel room, and then still get a new pair of jeans or dinner at McDonald's right down the road too. So, playing the tape through, I mean, there could be a lot of issues here. Now, that same person, Duke, who wants to do nefarious things, while I'm at it, now I've made a little bit of money. Well, maybe I start getting into other things too, instead of just, getting the cannabis over there. Hey, I can make some more money if I'm getting powdered goods, or if I'm working into some things where it's, closer to prostitution or human trafficking, so those things have a tendency to snowball. And like you said, even though our law enforcement is awesome here in Mawa and they're really on top of things, as soon as you bust one, there'll be 3 more to take the place.
Exactly. Because like the thing is also, then they'll get some maybe they'll just use a female, for instance. You get a young girl who wants to smoke pot or do whatever other drugs they have available. Maybe she doesn't have the money. So guess what's going to happen then? She's going to use her body. And then he's going to be, hey, listen, you're doing this. Might as well sell you over here and make a piece and I'll take care of it. So now you have prostitution, drugs, and then maybe they get into some arms dealing too. I mean, everything's right there. And, like you said, if you have a little crack in the dike, what happens to it? It gets bigger and bigger. The more pressure comes in. And, and especially the way that, law enforcement now is being hamstrung in, with some of these new rules and laws put on them, and also this, this bail reform nonsense. So these people are in and out, and they know it, and they take the chance. They're going to take the chance. So, also people say, oh God, it's not as bad as drunk driving and so forth. But guess what? Every one of those states, the cities that has legalized marijuana, has noticed a jump in automotive vehicle fatalities. There's been more accidents and more fatalities. Look at the stats from Denver from when they started it. They did a 6-year study. It's all available online. It's not an innocuous drug. It's dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, going back to, like you said, with the psychosis, I mean, you can take 2 people like me and you. Now, I've smoked pot before, I've drank, I've done plenty of things like that. It's like me and you could smoke from the same joint and, you get the munchies while I'm sitting here going like, dude, everybody knows I'm high. You know what I mean? It depends on the person. So there's different reactions. But, kind of going back, with some of the law enforcement aspect of it and driving, for alcohol. All right. We have a breathalyzer test, some kind of non-invasive type of procedure that an officer can do either roadside or back at the station that doesn't involve bodily fluids, where they can try and determine if somebody is inebriated, intoxicated from alcohol. You know what I mean?
Right.
With the current state of law enforcement right now, where, the pressure is on them unnecessarily for a lot of different reasons, you're going to only create greater problems, because to really find out if somebody has marijuana in their system right now is to take a blood sample, because like we were talking about, it's, it's fat soluble. So if I have some marijuana today, like you said, for about 20 some odd days, depending on how fat I am, that's going to be in my system. So you can't do a pee test for it. I mean, and that's still bodily fluids. They're not going to, cops aren't going to have people do pee tests on the side of the road to try and find out if they're high, or back in the station too. You know what I mean? So the only way you really got to do it is do a blood sample, and you got to do it right away. So everybody, so say they do the field sobriety, touch your nose and walk a line and things like that, and say they fail that. Now, what are the police going to have to do? They're going to have to call EMT, an ambulance, to come and take them to a special location, so that way they can get. So until they have something like maybe a retinal scanner or, some type of other type of device that is more, in line with something like a breathalyzer that's non-invasive, that really doesn't involve too many bodily fluids, we really don't have the practical manner to enforce this type of law, and hey, we could all use safer drivers around here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, you bring up a lot of interesting points, because, look at the cost. What does it cost the society to provide all these additional services required for people who are driving around high? Right. The proponents of this say, oh gosh, you know what, we're going to get tax. We're going to get a portion of their taxes come into, to the town or to the locality, whatever it is that is governing this area. So let's say there, you have taxes coming into the town, property taxes for this, or business tax, whatever they're applying. But how do we know how much it's going to offset the additional costs? How many more ambulances do we have to put on? How many more police officers do we have to put on? Or if we have the same ones, are we taking away from, someone who's having a heart attack or, having in labor with a baby, and they can't get the ambulance there fast enough because they're dealing with somebody who's high on the side of Route 17. These are the other costs that people seem to just be glossing over. These associated costs with the increased policing, the increased services, and so forth. And I don't think that the taxes are going to mitigate that.
I would really like to see that cost benefit analysis, and try to really identify what are the manifest functions and the latent functions, or otherwise known as like the intended consequences and the unintended consequences, because it seems like, everybody's on the front end of that with those, intended consequences. Oh, yay. We're going to see more taxes, like more tax revenue in the town, and it will offset my property taxes by like 3 cents every year. Cool. But they're not looking into the additional costs that are going to definitely be ensued. It'd be nice to see their decisioning tree, here at MAWA to try and make that available, because honestly, it looks like that, from my point of view, it's going to cost a hell of a lot more than what we're going to get back in any kind of tax revenue, and especially the social, emotional, and spiritual costs are extremely high. Just the traffic headache alone over at West Marlboro Ave will give a lot of emotional problems to people,
Yeah. Trying to get to your kids' practice or their game, and you're stuck in traffic because there's a line of people buying pot around the corner. It's bad enough over there. You try going there from like 4:30 till 6:30. It's jammed up. So we're gonna jam it up even more. Yeah, it's a good plan. Good plan. So, hey Duke, man, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. You got any closing words or anything you'd like to say to everyone?
Thank you kindly, Master Phil. You're one of the best guys that I know. You do a lot for our community. You do a lot for your students, both in the classroom and in the dojo. You're a truly shining light for a lot of us around here. So just keep doing the good stuff. Keep promoting health, keep promoting, being physically active, putting good things in our body, and doing the next right thing, man.
Yeah. Talk about being physically active. You said you got back into working out.
Yeah. At one point in time, I was a Division I college football player. I know what it's like to work out at a higher level. And for a long time, I was in construction. I stayed very physically active doing that. When COVID hit, I had moved into an administration position, and I started working out hard. I got back into my routines real hard.
Yeah.
But then within the last year, whether it's the pandemic, different political things, I kind of fell off, and I totally fell out of my good routine. And getting back on the horse, getting back on the bike is a really difficult thing to do. But, establishing routines, you don't have to be Superman in one day, getting back into that routine, whether you're doing just a little bit. And it was some of your advice that you told me, like, Master Phil, you're like, hey, Duke, you don't have to be going and doing, your 50-minute, bang it out superset routine where you're doing bench curls, just do some calisthenics today. Make sure you just do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, do your stretches, do your yoga, brother, and then once you get that routine down, then you can start adding more. And that's what I've been doing, Master Phil. And it definitely works great, So thank you kindly, brother, man.
Love it. Oh, Pleasure, brother. Anytime. Well, again, Duke, thank you. You've been an incredible guest. And of course, Doug, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everyone, thank you
Great
for
job,
listening
guys.
in today. So we're going to close things out. This is Master Phil in your corner. Strength and honor.